It's another day, left jab, right jab, this is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim, looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting, if you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go, I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show, this the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
UFC 257. Once again, we got Conor McGregor kicking off the MMA calendar year for us. Of course, last year, he absolutely dismantled Donald Cowboy Cerrone to kick things off for 2020. This year, he has Dustin Poirier in front of him. I do believe Dustin's a little bit more of a formidable opponent in front of him, at this point in their careers. Of course, nothing but respect to Cowboy, but Poirier is definitely one of the best lightweight fighters that has ever stepped inside the octagon, in my opinion. This is a really big fight. I think a lot has changed since the first time these guys threw down years ago. Of course, that fight took place in the featherweight division, both just young boys at the time. And, I don't want to talk too much about this fight right now. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Before we start this card up, I do want to let you guys know that we're going to be having Joe Selecki join us this Thursday for MMA Live Discussion, episode 25, I believe. Joe Selecki is one of the most promising young stars moving through the ranks in the lightweight division right now in the UFC. He's won his fight over in Dana White's Contender Series a couple years back, got the contract, and then he's went 2-0 inside the UFC. And this is a guy that brings some legit grappling and submission skills inside the octagon. So 27 years old, he has supreme confidence, coming off that first round rear naked choke against Austin Hubert, took out Matt Wyman in his UFC debut. And like I said, this guy has some real potential. So if you have any questions for Joe Selecki, I hope you guys are with me as I do the live stream. Should be 8 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. I may alter the time, maybe an hour or so, depending if that press conference with McGregor and Poirier, the press conference for UFC 257 might be around the same time, but it also might be earlier in the day. So just stick with me on my Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _. I'll keep you guys updated, but I really hope that you guys are joining me for that, because I'm going to take even a deeper look into UFC 257, and I'll answer some of your guys' questions. If you guys got questions about this card, we'll do a live stream there. So really hope to have you guys join me there. And I think it's about that time. UFC 257. Let's get it. All right, guys. Kicking things off, we have a flyweight bout. Now, this was a fight that was supposed to take place back in November, so it did have to be pushed back a little bit. But here we go. Amir Albazi taking on Zhalgas Zhumagulov, taking place in the flyweight division. Now, Amir Albazi is a guy that really impressed me in his UFC debut. Obviously, he pulled off that triangle choke against Malcolm Gordon there. He really made Malcolm look like a fish out of water when they were on the mat. So very impressed with his grappling and submission skills. As far as on the feet, some decent speed in his striking, some decent speed in his hands. I do think that he needs to be a little bit more comfortable as far as the striking goes. If he wants to make it to the big time in the division, against some of the more upper echelon talent. Now we take a look at Zhalgas. Zhalgas is a guy, did lose his last fight against that young Brazilian fighter who I'm very high on. Name slipping my mind. I think Julian Paiva, I think it was. That kid is very talented, very rangy for the division, and really kind of pushed the pace on him there. So, but other than that, I still kind of hold Zhalgas, pretty high. He's a talented fighter as well. I think he has the potential to give some guys some real trouble in the division. He's a very strong fighter. Very well-rounded. He can strike, he can grapple, he could do it all. You run the tape on him. This guy is competent there. But I'm going to edge Amir to win the fight based on the fact a little bit younger. As far as their experience goes, almost identical. We got Zhalgas with a couple more fights, but Zhalgas a little bit more mature at 32 years old. I think Amir is going to have a little bit more of a speed advantage, a little bit more of a youth advantage here. And it's not that I always think that plays out with certain matchups, but in this matchup, I think that will edge Amir a little bit. We saw Julian Paiva take over that last fight towards the later rounds. Zalgas slowed down a little bit in there. Not in horrible shape or anything like that, but comes in there a little bit pudgy and whatnot. Amir comes in shredded. I believe he has a gas tank from the footage I was able to pull up. Looks like he has a good gas tank, but I like the X factor of him with his ground game and his submission game as well. I think there's more potential for him to get a stoppage as far as a submission. Not saying I necessarily expect that to happen, but I would give him more of an edge than as far as Zalgas goes. Maybe Zalgas can clip Amir with a shot, maybe get a finish with the striking. Does carry some power. But I like Amir. I like Amir here. He is a slight dog as of right now. I do think that Amir will be the fan favorite there with the limited amount of fans that will be in the crowd. I believe Amir Albazi will be the fan favorite over there in Abu Dhabi and fighting out of London Shoot Fighters. Good camp over there. And I'm going to slightly edge Amir Albazi to win that fight there. Now in the next fight, we got Nick the Carney Lentz taking on Movsar Evloev. This was a fight that I just broke down to you guys. They keep doing this to me, moving all these fights around. Nick Lentz is a guy, I'm not going to kill you guys, tell you the same story, but if you want to hear that funny story, if you're just tuning in for the first time, I almost had a road rage incident with Nick Lentz down over here in South Florida, pulling right over by American Top Team. This guy almost crashed into each other. Kind of a funny experience for me as being such a big fight fan. Seeing Nick Lentz with his Minnesota plates over there waving his arm at me. We're yelling at each other. But Nick Lentz is a guy, he's been around the block, has a lot of experience. What does he have, man? Come on, he has over, 53 fights? No, excuse me, I meant 43 fights. Excuse me, guys. Still a lot of fights, man. Nick Lentz, very well-rounded, very competent with his wrestling, with his jiu-jitsu, with his striking. Kind of slow. He's slow on the feet. He's been training with the best of them for a long time over at American Top Team. And then you got Movsar Evloev. Movsar, in my opinion, is the truth. I really, really, truly believe this guy is part of that new wave. This guy has the potential to be a champion down the line. I don't know how quickly, but I think he definitely does have the potential to be a champion. He's only 26 years old, undefeated. And it's not even just the undefeated record. It's not one of those guys where it's like, oh, he's undefeated and he's getting overhyped. Movsar is so lightning fast inside the octagon. The way he transitions from his striking into his grappling, he pushes a pace on these guys like no other. Amazing cardio. He's about as refined of a fighter as you're going to find. There's no holes in his game, at least that we've seen up until this point, in my opinion. And that's why I'm taking Evloev here. I'm not really too worried about Lentz's experience. It's not going to do it for me. I think that Evloev is going to be quicker to the punch, quicker to the grappling exchanges. He'll be one step ahead of him there. And I think that the longer the fight goes, it favors him more there as well. Now, again, Nick Lentz, he's a guy that I do not want to disrespect. I think Lentz is a guy that really brings a lot to the table, and he's a guy that can give people trouble. We've seen that before. We've seen some guys that were hyped up that ended up, dropping the ball against Nick Lentz. One in particularly, let's see, who was it? Will Brooks. Will Brooks started to drop the ball quite often, though, if you want to be honest about it, but that was when he was still kind of hyped up. Dropped the ball there. Scott Holtzman's a very capable opponent. Then you got to run the tape back, go back a little bit. Manny Gambari and Danny Castillo. These are formidable opponents that he's taken out. The guys he's losing to are very, very talented fighters as well. Chad Mendes, Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, Arnold Allen. These are very good fighters. So maybe, analyze the losses that he's been having as of recently too. Take a look at those losses. But again, when it's all said and done, it's not enough for me to lean towards his side. And in fact, I like Movsar a lot. So as I stated, I think Movsar has the potential to be a champion moving forward, and we'll be keeping an eye on him. And that's why I got Movsar Evloev. The line, take a look at the Movsar line right now, right around minus 450, 440. And a possible parlay leg if that's the way you want to go, unless you feel comfortable taking a dog shot on Lentz on a crafty veteran. if that's what you guys are liking, but that's not the way I'm leaning. Excuse me, guys. All right. All right, in this next fight, an awesome matchup here. Andrew Sanchez taking on McMann, Muradov. Both of these guys have been looking very good inside the octagon as of recently. Andrew Sanchez, you know, he's had some little mental lapses inside the octagon. One fight that was devastating was this Ryan James fight, where he put an absolute clinic on Ryan James, but blew his gas tank, and then ended up, yeah, he did get finished, right? Got finished, yeah, in the 3rd round, which that was a really, really tough one to watch, if you guys remember. Just the guy couldn't even lift up his arms, but he was so much more of a talented fighter. It was almost like, imagine you had a dog that can, a pit bull against a little chihuahua, but you had the pit bull with the muzzle on his mouth, and the chihuahua was just biting him to death. It was tough to watch. But Andrew Sanchez brings in some legit wrestling, some real legit wrestling. Carries some real power in his hands. Has been working on his striking over the last couple of years, and it's really been coming around. We saw that knockout against Wellington Turman, the Brazilian fighter who's had a lot of promise. Still does. He's a talented dude, but Sanchez put that on hold. Before that, Sanchez lost to Vettori. You guys know the deal with Vettori and how high I am on him. Now we'll take a look at McMann. Muradov, you know, knocked out Trevor Smith in the 3rd round in that last fight. Kind of was toying with him there, if you guys remember that fight. Was really taking his time. He's a very patient fighter. Great striking, great grappling, very well-rounded. I think Makhmud is one of those guys that's very cerebral in there. I think he's very calm, and he's making rational decisions in there. I like what he brings to the table. Of course, a lot of you guys know, you know, he's one of those guys. I think he was signed with Floyd Mayweather, actually. Floyd Mayweather was hyping him up for a long time before he even made his UFC debut. You know, so maybe they saw something. I wouldn't even say maybe. I think they did see something, because this guy's the real deal. We'll see how far he goes inside the division, but definitely has the potential to run through it. But again, the UFC is filled with killers. This is going to be his biggest test inside the UFC, without a doubt. I think that Andrew Sanchez is up for the task. If he shows up, he can come out there and easily win this fight. But I got to lean McMann. Muradov to win the fight. I just think that he shows a little bit more promise, a slight little bit more promise. Andrew Sanchez, a guy that's been dragged through the mud before, but, you know, he's looking to you know, come out, you know, polished up and ready to work his way to the top of the division. But I think McMann is a guy that's just a little bit more on his way there. We take a look at the line, you know, a slight edge on McMann, and it's understandable. I think this line's pretty accurate. Sanchez is right there. He's live, almost an even line on him. And I really can't wait to see this fight. And yeah, last time, don't forget, he pulled up with the mullet. And got the nasty knockout. So, you know right now, you know, he's ready to go, is El Dirte Sanchez. Very tough customer. So yeah, this is a fight that I think it's gonna be a very close fight. But, you know, if I got to pick, I'm taking Makhmud. There's some things that he does a little bit better that make me more comfortable with him, and I think it has to do with his fighter IQ. You know, his gas tank will be good in the later rounds as well, I believe, and I like him there. How about this one? Khalil Rountree taking on Marcin Prachnio. They're giving Marcin another shot here, huh? Coming off 3 losses. Coming off a devastating knockout loss to Mike Rodriguez. Marcin Prachnio has not looked good at all. Just to be blatant, he has looked horrible in there. He's just one of those guys that you really wonder, is he even UFC caliber? And I don't even know how long you wonder that. I think you know the answer here. I think Khalil Rountree, the warhorse, I think that this is a perfect fight for him. I think that the UFC, you know, for whatever reason, not that there shouldn't be a reason, but they're giving him a little bit of a layup here, and I think it's a good move. Khalil Rountree is a very entertaining fighter. When his striking, when he's able to put his striking on display, it's really beautiful to watch. If you guys remember what he did to Eric Anders, he put an absolute clinic on Eric Anders. inside there. Just absolutely destroyed him. A lot of you guys are familiar with the story. You know, he went over to Thailand and just has strictly been working on his Muay Thai, you know, for a long time. I don't know if that's still the case, but I know at one point in time he was really just strictly working on his Muay Thai, not even really touching up other parts of his game. He wanted to elevate his Muay Thai that much. And you saw him, he walked out there with the classic Muay Thai stance and just started whooping Anders. The only issue with that is, you know, he bounced back in the next fight against Ian Cutelaba. Excuse me. And that Cutelaba fight, Cutelaba, you know, really just broke him. You know, if you make it a dogfight against Rountree, I do believe you can break him, and he's there to be finished, and for a lot of messy things to happen. But a Rountree is an entertaining fighter. I do not believe that Marcin is gonna have enough juice to drag him into that type of war where he might be able to make things dirty and get a finish or get a victory here. I just think that Rountree is gonna style on him. I really think that the absolute definition of style on him. I think he's gonna be running circles around him, whipping leg kicks, you know, just tagging him up with classic Muay Thai strikes. And it's going to be a short night, actually. I think it'll be a short night for Marcin. Probably gets knocked out in the first round. That's kind of the way I see that going. And, you know, that was what Mike Rodriguez did to him. Made it look very easy. Just walked out there, touched him with the elbow, put him out. But you never know, man. The fight game's crazy. Maybe Marcin comes back very, very motivated. And you know, this is a guy that's very physically fit. Maybe he could try to drag Khalil into deep waters with some grappling. You know, that would be the way I would want him to go. I would want him to be just pushing the pace, smothering Khalil, and just trying to gas him out. We've seen some slight question marks with Khalil's gas tank as well. So that would be Marcin's route to try to win that fight. I just don't think that he has it in him, in my opinion, which is why I like Rountree. Not sure how comfortable I am with Rountree, being that he does have some holes, though. If you guys catch my drift, you know, he does have some holes in his game that if things don't play out properly, he could drop the ball for you. I see that path. In the next fight, we got Sara McMann taking on Julianna Peña, the Venezuelan vixen. And this is an awesome fight here. You know, Sara McMann coming off a great showing. And if you guys have been paying attention to Sara McMann, she is as motivated as ever. She's in as great shape as she's ever been. I truly believe that. I'll show you some of her exercises, man. She's been just, look how she looks here. I mean, she is as physically fit as she's ever been. We saw what she did in her last fight. She went out there and she took Lena Landsberg down over and over again and absolutely mauled her. She's coming in as a slight favorite as of right now. She is 40 years old, though. 40 years old. She's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. And, you know, Julianna Peña is coming off that loss against Germaine de Randamie where she got subbed by a guillotine. That wasn't a good look for her. She should not be letting that happen inside the octagon. But I do think that Julianna is going to bounce back here nicely. Julianna is an extremely tough chick. You guys remember her from the Ultimate Fighter show. She's I'm trying to think of a fighter that she reminds me of. You know, she has that. She'll continuously walk you down. You know, she's going to continuously be in your face. She's going to be diving in for takedowns. If she wants to try to get you down, she'll try to drag you down. The only issue here is, I mean, I don't know how that's going to play out against Sara McMann. I don't know if you can just run out there just trying to drag Sara McMann down. I mean, we're talking about an Olympic caliber wrestler in Sara McMann. I think Sara McMann has enough to stuff those takedowns. As far as on the feet, though, I think that Julianna could hold her own on the feet with Sara. Sara maybe has a little bit more edge as far as the power goes, but Julianna a little bit more with the volume and the activity and just swarming her opponents. I think that I give her a slight edge there. And I'm going to take... I've been torn on this fight, guys. I've been torn, man. I said I was going to just pick the fighter that I'm feeling at the moment right now because I've been back and forth. You know, the way Sara looked in her last fight was so impressive. She looks to be in such good shape, and I think that she could stuff those takedowns of Julianna. It's telling you guys, man. I've really been torn on this fight. You know what, man? I'm gonna wait and see how the week plays out. And I'm going to make a live pick on my Instagram. So, you know, when I do my fight picks, stay tuned. Actually, you know what? I will have a live pick for you guys. MMA live discussion Thursday. I will be settled in on who I'm going to pick here. But I do want to see a little bit more of these women during fight week. And because I'm so torn on this fight, man. This is such a close fight. I'm telling you guys right now. So as far as betting goes, I mean, the value is probably on the dog, in my opinion. Really think this fight can go either way. So give Sara a little follow there. But yes, I will probably be settled in by Thursday or by the latest. You guys know my Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _. My official picks are always posted the morning of the fights. All right. So that's all I got to say about that for now. Great matchup though. All right, we got Brad Tavares taking on Antonio Carlos Jr., a.k.a. Shoeface. If you guys remember how he got his name, Cara de Zapato. Both these guys came from the Ultimate Fighter. If you guys remember, both these guys are Ultimate Fighter alumni. Of course, Antonio Carlos Jr. coming from the Brazilian Ultimate Fighter. Brad Tavares was on that middleweight Ultimate Fighter show. You know, shout out to the Ultimate Fighter. It is making a comeback very soon. It'll be with us very soon. You know, there's a lot of talks about it. I think this is an excellent fight. Both these guys lost their last 2 fights. They're 3-2 in their last 5 fights. Both of these guys are very talented fighters, in my opinion. I don't necessarily think these are guys that will ever hold gold or anything like that, but these are solid UFC fighters. They bring a lot of skills and attributes to the table. We'll start off with Antonio Carlos Jr. This is a guy that has some real legit grappling skills. I love his ground game. You know, this is a guy that's trained with the best of them for years. And this is a guy that's also evolved his game. You know, this guy, he's shown that he has power in his striking too. He's went out there, he's knocked guys out. We've seen him knock dudes out. You always like to see that, you know, when you see a guy that was primarily, you know, just a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, and then all of a sudden he's going in there, he's sharpening up all aspects of his game, and he's going in there and he's thriving, getting knockouts. So, you know, I do like that I like seeing that from him. Brad Tavares, on the other hand, Brad Tavares is a guy extremely well-rounded, great takedown defense, you know, very aggressive, good striking, good leg kicks, good boxing. You know, just a solid fighter is Brad Tavares. I mean, he's the epitome of a gatekeeper, and I mean that with all due respect. I mean, this is a guy that, you know, if you really want to prove yourself to be a solid fighter, you got to go through Brad Tavares, and he shut that door on a lot of guys, you know. So a legit guy. Brad Tavares right now, 33 years old. You know, we'll take a look. You know, he did lose to Edmund Shabazian. That wasn't a good look for him. And then he lost to Israel Adesanya. Went to decision with Izzy, right? The champion. Before that, takes out Christoph Jocko, very talented fighter. Talis Laitis and Elias Theodoro. I mean, those were good wins for him. 33 years old. I think he's still right there. I think he's still just right there by his prime. Don't let those losses fool you. I think he's going to be very motivated here. Coming in with a 5-inch reach advantage. I do not like that, though. If Antonio Carlos Jr. Uses that range a little bit, I think that could definitely benefit him there as far as the striking goes. On the ground, I give an edge to Antonio Carlos Jr. as long as he, you know, he's fresh and he gets himself in some nice positions there. I like him on the mat. And you take a look at his losses. You know, he lost to Uriah Hall, and then he lost to Ian Heinisch. If you guys remember, that was actually an underdog play of mine, Heinisch there. He was taking out those Brazilians there for a bit. And this fight here, I'm going to go. This is another fight I've been torn on. And these are close fights here. But, you know, I do like Antonio Carlos Jr. I like the reach advantage that he's bringing inside the octagon. Like I said, I really like his ground skills. And I think that he's going to be hungry for a victory. 30 years old. He's in the prime of his career, without a doubt. I really believe that. And I think that this is his time to go out there and do something. So, you know, I think back to some of the fights that he's had inside the Ultimate Fighter house over there in that Brazil season. And I remember the way he would show up. And he went out there, he got some nasty knockouts. This guy has rose to the occasion before. I think that he goes in there and he takes out Brad Tavares. So I take Antonio Carlos Jr. to win that fight. But a very, very close fight. Fight can go anyway. How about this one in the lightweight division? Two of the top prospects in the game. Arman Tsarukyan taking on Nasrat. Haqparast. Arman put on an absolute clinic in his last fight against Davi Ramos. Davi Ramos is no joke either, so that really showed you where he's at with his game. 24 years old. This guy hasn't even touched the limit of what he's going to be and where he's going to, end up rounding out his skills down the line, maybe when he's 32 or something like that. Without a doubt, a guy that has potential to be a champion. I'm willing to say that right now. I think Arman has real potential to be a champion. You guys remember what he did to Islam Makhachev? He did lose that fight, took that fight on short notice, I believe, in his UFC debut. Just a young kid at the time. This was almost 2 years ago. It was almost 22 years old, fighting one of the most polished and dangerous fighters in the game, in Islam Makhachev. Maybe I don't want to say dangerous because I guess he does like to blanket people, but you guys catch my drift. A guy that's as hard to beat as anybody almost. If you guys remember the transitions with the grappling, Arman was right there with him. He was just a second behind, but he was right there, and all those grappling exchanges, stuffing takedowns. And you could see the level of grappling this guy brings to the table. Now, forget about the grappling. You saw the showing that he put on with his striking in his last fight was absolutely beautiful. The Muay Thai is nasty. Training over there at Tiger Muay Thai, and this guy is. I'm very high on him. Now, here's the thing, though. The guy he's taking on in Nasrat is an absolute stud as well, right? Nasrat coming off that win against Alex Munoz. Did drop the ball against Drew Dober. Got caught, but Drew Dober's dangerous. Nasrat is a guy that's very, very talented. A guy that's very well-rounded. He's very aggressive with his striking. A little bit unorthodox with his striking, but he's in your face and has some real grappling skills as well. But I think that he'll be a step behind in Arman no matter where it goes. I think he'll be a step behind Arman with the striking. I think he'll be a step behind Arman with the grappling. I give Arman Tsarukyan the edge. I give him the edge anywhere this fight goes. This is a tricky fight, though. Just because the line, you look at the line, minus 250, minus 270, the line keeps moving. And it's hard. It's hard to disrespect. Excuse me, guys. Hard to disrespect Nasrat because Nasrat's such a stud of a fighter as well, and you know that he's live. But I think this just goes to show you how talented Arman Tsarukyan is, and that's why, of course, I'm picking Arman Tsarukyan to win the fight. I think he wins this fight. I think that he continues to move through the ranks, and I think eventually we see this guy right up there at the top of the division fighting for the belt. That's how I feel about him, man. I'm very, very high on Arman Tsarukyan, as you guys can tell. But his opponent is no walk in the park, so the line, that's a decision, you got to kind of feel out, almost a 3-1 favorite against a guy like Nasrat. It's a tough position, but Arman's the truth. In the next bout, we got some Brazilian girls throwing down. Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Ribas. Excellent stylistic matchup here. Marina Rodriguez, a very polished striker, very entertaining striker. And Amanda Ribas, of course, a very talented striker. She's very well-rounded. Marina Rodriguez could not stay on her feet in her last fight against Carla Esparza, and that was a damn shame because she had that fight in the bag, but just Carla kept dragging her down. So, Amanda Ribas will have opportunities to do that as well. I do believe that. If she wants to get takedowns, I think Marina Rodriguez needs to work on her takedown defense. Amanda Ribas has shown a little bit more to me, in my opinion. Both these girls, though, like I said, very talented on the feet. I even give the edge on the striking to Ribas as well, though. I do think Ribas is a little bit better everywhere this fight goes. We've seen Ribas go out there, put on a clinic against, what's her name? Her too, right? She finished early, though, Paige Van Zandt, but she put on a clinic against Mackenzie Dern. I saw that fight live. Bounced back, got another victory over Randa Marcos. Amanda Ribas, I do believe she's one of the future staples of women's mixed martial arts. I think that she has the potential to be a champion. She has an amazing personality. My best friend just saw her not too long ago, a couple of weeks back, over at, I believe it was at a Walmart. So she does shop at Walmart. But, she's over here, I'm assuming over at Top Team, I believe she is. Yeah, American Top Team. She also has her own little thing she has going, the Ribas family. But, Amanda Ribas is a girl, like I said, great personality. I think she could. I think she should mix in a couple takedowns in this fight. I think she should work some ground and pound on Marina Rodriguez just to show some more wrinkles in her game, as well as just take the easiest path to victory here. But if she wants to showcase her striking, she could do that as well. I think, like I said, she'll be a step ahead of Marina. But Marina is a little bit more dangerous on the feet, so you got to be careful there. Marina, she'll be throwing too, so I don't want to disrespect Marina there. Marina is going to actually be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage going into this fight, even though she has the 3-inch height advantage. So this is Ribas' fight, in my opinion. I think Ribas should pull off the victory here, and I hope she does, because there's some big fights that I want to see her move forward to. And yeah, she's enjoying herself over there in Abu Dhabi, and this will be a good one. It's a good fight there. But again, Marina Rodriguez, her takedown defense was absolutely horrid in her last fight. So, and as far as the line goes, Amanda Ribas, right around minus 320. So sometimes with women's mixed martial arts, you got to be careful about some of those higher lines. You never know sometimes, but I think that Ribas should be comfortable, should win that fight comfortably. So I don't have a problem with what's taking her there around that line. I guess if you want to throw her in a parlay leg or whatnot, if that's a fight you're targeting, if you feel good with that line there. All right. In the next fight, we got Matt the Steamroller Frevola taking on Ottman Azaitar, the bulldozer, who looked amazing in his last fight, got that knockout over Kama Worthy. This guy has some real power. Definitely, very nasty on the feet. The striking's nasty. Matt Frevola, you guys know the deal with Matt Frevola. He carries power in his hands as well. Does have a solid wrestling background, solid wrestling pedigree. I think he's definitely going to have to mix in the wrestling in this fight. I wouldn't want to see Matt Frevola just try to stand up with Ottman this entire fight and try to pull off the victory. I want to see him mixing things up. I think that's the X factor in this fight. Matt Frevola is looking to be in excellent shape going into this fight. And, I had the pleasure, I guess you guys ain't going to be able to see this actually. I think my program's been blocking it. I don't know if you guys can see this. We'll find out after the fact, but that's MMA Live Discussion episode 14, where I had the pleasure to chat it up with Matt Frevola. And, since then, he hasn't fought since then. It's been a year and 3 months, so he's been hungry to get in there. He was supposed to get in there a couple times, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But I know that he's sharpened up his game a lot since that last victory against Violent Bob Ross. I did see that fight live, and this is a tough fight for me. I really like Matt Frevola. I'm going to be rooting for him to win this fight. I do think that Ottman, I think that the striking may be a little bit too much for Matt. And I'm not sure if Matt's going to be able to consistently hold him down and get those takedowns. So that's how this fight's going to go one way or another. If Matt Frevola can't mix in any takedowns, if he can't work in, mix up his game, I think he might be in a little bit of trouble on the feet with Ottman. This guy, he looked nasty, man, in his last fight, and he's shown on tape. He has some real skills. And I'm going to be rooting for my boy Frevola there. But we'll see how that fight takes place. And, you see him putting in work over here with Usman, Gaethje. And, he's got some things going on right now. So I don't want to sit here and tell you I'm picking Frevola. Even though, like I said, I want Frevola to win that fight. All right, how about this one? Jessica Eye taking on Joanne Calderwood. Both these girls have been around the block for quite some time now, up to this point. Look at this. Joanne Calderwood, 35 years old. Jessica Eye, a lot of you guys know her as the girl that got murdered inside the octagon, but has since came back to life after what Shevchenko did to her. In all honesty, Jessica Eye has put her game together at some time. Has put her game together as of recently compared to what it used to be. There was times I used to look at her and I really thought she was completely incompetent in there. But then, I've seen her polish up her game a little bit. She's very tough, comes in great shape. she's going to push the pace on you. You know, she brings in a 66-inch reach advantage, and she's going to try to get in your face. And she's a hungry dog. You know, we saw her, you know, pull off some victories, you know, some upsets, right? Against Caitlin Chookagian, Jessica Rose Clark. That was a good win for her. You know, Viviane Araújo, she won that fight. That was a fight that was good for her. But again, you know, she loses the championship fight, but what do you expect there? And then she lost her last fight against Cynthia. That was a fight. A lot of you guys were picking I was on Cynthia all day. Cynthia was a dog, believe it or not, if you guys remember that. Cynthia really put on a clinic with her boxing. And then you see Cynthia in her next fight, all of a sudden she doesn't even have that good of boxing skills. So that kind of shows you just Jessica Ai's striking defense. I do expect Joanne Calderwood to be able to use her striking here and to be able to tag up Jessica Ai. Joanne Calderwood has some good, well-rounded Muay Thai. You know, Calderwood did drop the ball in her last fight against Jennifer Maia, but, you know, she fell into that armbar. Jennifer Maia is a very well-rounded fighter. I like Calderwood here. I'm taking Calderwood to win the fight. I think Calderwood will land a little bit more of the clean punches, a little bit more of the clean strikes. Throws a lot of leg kicks in there as well. So maybe she could score some points with her kicks and whatnot. But I would like to see her use her boxing a little bit too. I want to see her score some points with the boxing, tag up Jessica Ai, and use good footwork, because Jessica Ai will try to close her in and will try to close the cage off and whatnot. But it's a close fight, and, you know, these are the types of fights you have to be really careful with. You know, you think you see something, but I don't know how reliable each of these fighters are, so anything could happen in there. But, you know, I'm going to edge Calderwood, and the line is pretty accurate. The line is pretty accurate in my opinion. All right, now we're getting to the top two fights. I'm excited to break these fights down with you guys. In the co-main event, oh shit. They got me clicking on ads over here. Look at Nike. In the co-main event, we got Dan the Hangman Hooker welcoming Michael Chandler, Iron Mike. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with Michael Chandler, for some of you guys know I'm very high on him. This is a guy, you know, we had him mixed in a play in his last fight. Showed up, got the early knockout over Benson Henderson. Had him mixed in a parlay there. Michael Chandler is a guy that he brings some X factors inside the cage, in my opinion. This is a guy that has very, very high level wrestling. This guy was, I believe, a champion, you know, state champion wrestler, all that type of stuff. He's a supreme athlete. The training this guy does, the guys who he trains with are top of the line. This guy rolls with guys like Burns, Usman. I mean, all those guys, you name it. The power in his hands is second to none. If he tags you, he's putting you out. You know, I've been such a big fan of his over in Bellator for years. I remember seeing him take out Eddie Alvarez the first time they fought when he took the belt. He was undefeated at the time, maybe like 9-0. You know, Chandler is legit. And then you got Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's going to be bringing in, you know, a big reach advantage. He's going to have a 6.5-inch reach advantage. He's going to need to use that. He's going to try to, you know, keep Chandler on the outside a little bit and try to use that range and try to knock Chandler out. We've seen Chandler get knocked out. We saw him get knocked out against Pitbull, Patricio Pitbull. He got too aggressive in there and he did get caught. You know, Dan Hooker is a guy that I do believe has excelled his game so much over the last couple of years. So, you know, nothing but respect to Dan Hooker. You know, I've made money on Dan Hooker. We had Dan Hooker against Paul Felder. I thought he won that fight convincingly. It was a close fight, but I thought he won that fight convincingly. And then in his last fight, he lost to DP. No shame in losing to Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, like I said, is one of the best fighters to ever fight in the lightweight division here in the UFC. You know, Dan Hooker, training out of City Boxing over there with Izzy and all that. His striking is nasty. I think that Hooker does have a legit chance to knock Chandler out. I think I could see him connecting with something. I mean, if Patricio can knock him out, I don't see any reason why Hooker can't knock him out. Maybe he gets a head kick or something like that. And Michael Chandler will give you opportunities to do that, being that he's so aggressive in there. Another thing to take into consideration, man, Chandler gets his striking training with Henry Hooft. You guys know Henry Hooft. I'm as high on him as a striking coach as anybody in the MMA game. And take a look how Chandler's looking. I I mean, that's the guy who he's working with on the mitts. Henry Hooft, one of the most skilled kickboxers we've ever seen in the game. So, but like I said, Chandler is he's a beast, and I'm taking Chandler here. I like Michael Chandler to win this fight. Like I said, it's a little bit of a dangerous fight for him. Yes, it is. But I'm not so much worried about that reach advantage. I think that Chandler is very good with his footwork and closing the distance on his fighters. And I think that Chandler has the X factor with his wrestling. I think that he could try to get some takedowns on Hooker. I know a lot of people have been saying, and Hooker himself has been saying, he's not worried about the takedowns. He's very confident in his takedown defense, which I do agree. It's very good. But I still think that that's an X factor. I think that Chandler has the edge with the grappling. If he hurts Hooker or whatnot, I could see him getting in on some hips, ripping him down to the mat. He's a little pit bull in there. No pun intended, even though I know he was knocked out by a pit bull brother recently, but he is a real pit bull, this guy, man. He's a little pit bull savage. And I'm taking Michael Chandler to win the fight. And for those of you guys that don't know about Michael Chandler coming from the Bellator scene, you guys are going to find out. And even if he loses this fight, I still think that he'll make a good showing of himself. You'll see he's going to come forward, and you'll see what he brings to the table. He's going to make it a war. That's what he does. He delivers wars in there. He's there to fight. This guy, if he goes in there, he gets a big victory. I think that this is the guy that is next for Conor McGregor. So remember, I'm telling you guys that now. I think he is next for Conor McGregor. Dana White has loved Michael Chandler for years. He's been wanting to get him over here for years. If you guys remember all the interviews and whatnot when he's talked about him, he's wanted to get Michael Chandler. He's very disappointed the first time Chandler signed that big extension, that big contract. So Dana White knew he wasn't going to be able to have him for some time. But Dana White wanted him, and there's a reason why. He has the look, but he has the aggression and the fighting style to deliver for the fans. And I'm taking Michael Chandler to win the fight. And that brings us to the main event. We got Dustin, the Diamond Poirier, taking on Conor McGregor. Of course, this is the second time that they're getting matched up. Conor McGregor got the knockout on him early the first time around. That fight was a long time ago, and Conor has done a lot since then. That fight, the first time they fought was back in 2014. Got the first round knockout, got in DP's head, and you could see he wasn't himself in there and clipped him early. But you also were able to see the power that Conor brings inside the octagon. Conor has one-touch knockout power. We've seen him finishing all these guys. Although, all these fights had a couple little setbacks here. But look at the setbacks. Floyd Mayweather and Khabib, the two greatest at their crafts. The Nate Diaz fight was the one mistake he made, and you saw he bounced back and got the victory there after that. And the last fight against Cerrone, I understand, how a lot of you guys feel about Cerrone. He's flaky at times and whatnot. The way he did it, though, the way he took him out was so impressive, and you can see that McGregor is in phenomenal shape. And I think he's going to go in there and he's going to be knocking out a lot of guys coming up soon. He's going to be going in there and knocking down a lot of guys at the top of the division. That's the ability that he brings inside the octagon. Now, here's the thing. I see the line getting very high on Conor. Conor McGregor right now is right around a -300, -305 favorite, as high as -333 over at William H. I don't know how I feel about that, man. You guys know I'm a diehard Conor McGregor fan. You guys see I got the signed memorabilia from when he won both the belts against Eddie Alvarez. I mean, he's my favorite fighter in the game. He's my favorite fighter of all time. But you guys know when it comes down to business, I always keep it real with you guys. When I was in Vegas for the Khabib McGregor fight, I had a big ticket on Khabib, a big ticket. I won thousands of dollars on Khabib. So that just goes to show you, when it comes down to business, man, I'm willing to bet against my guy, man, because I knew that I felt comfortable that he wasn't going to take out Khabib. Khabib is just so good. He could have had the knockout, but there was just way more paths to victory for Khabib and way more confident paths as far as the grappling went in the submission game of Khabib. And, I want to keep it real with you guys here. I think the line is a little bit off. I like Conor to win this fight. I'm on Conor to win this fight. I actually think Conor gets a knockout. That's the way I'm going with this fight. But I don't know about -333, this and that. You know what I mean? If Conor doesn't get that knockout early, DP is going to be in his face, and it's going to be a war. It's going to be a war in the later rounds, and DP thrives in those wars. We've seen him. We've seen him do it time and time again. I mean, look what he does. I mean, he goes to these wars, took out Max Holloway in a 5-round war. Took out Dan Hooker in a 5-round war. lost to Khabib. It is what it is. He's taking out guys like Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje. Dustin's boxing is so underrated. It's so accurate, and he goes in there, he takes out top guys, and I think that he's a true live dog here. I really, really believe that. But at the end of the day, I'm rooting for Conor. I think Conor is going to go in there. I think he's going to be just a little bit too explosive and just too refined. I think he's been refining his craft, and I think that he's just a whole different type of athlete. He's already going to be in Dustin's head. He's already had that first-time knockout. And even if it goes to a war, I think Conor will be able to hang around. Got the whole McGregor fast system going. He better be in good shape. He looks like he's in good shape. But if he's not in good shape, Dustin Poirier is going to drown him in the late rounds. So I do think that Dustin Poirier is a way better version of Nate Diaz. Very similar, but I think that DP is a better version of him. So, but at the same time, I think that Conor has evolved way past, those first couple fights with Nate Diaz. His frame, his cardio, his fighting style, he's learned a lot. And that's why I'm taking Conor McGregor to win this fight. And it's going to be big, man. I hope he has 4 fights this year. This will be the first of the 4. And I'm super excited. And again, man, this was the first time. Don't forget what happened the first time around. Put him out. All right? But be careful with that line. Don't get emotional with your bets, guys. Don't get emotional. And big shout out to DP. Also, a hell of a guy. But it looks to me like Conor's pondering about that first round knockout. He says he's going to get the victory in under 60 seconds. So we'll see about that. All right, guys. All right, you guys know the deal. If you guys want to work with me for my picks, you reach out to me, MMAfortuneteller@gmail.com, or shoot me a DM on Instagram, MMAfortuneteller_. Go give me a follow. Please like this video, man. I appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate every single one of you guys, watching these videos, tuning in. And MMA live discussion, as I said, Joe Selecki will be joining us this Thursday. Please come in, come join the live stream, and we're going to be talking about UFC 257 more in depth. All right, guys? And with all that being said, there's only one thing left to do, guys. Signing out.
The teller. MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.